Psychic Focus at psychicfocus.blogspot.com, and today's topic is a strange outdoors mystery. So, I'll just get right to the question. It says, I find your website not only fascinating but informative and thought-provoking as well. But there's so many strange aspects to this 1970s cold case. Can you offer any insights to what may have happened? Thank you. And I left a link on the blog itself to an article that talks about this strange outdoors mystery, and I'll just read you a little blurb of it and then go right to the reading. So, what happened was, on February 24th, 1978, a group of friends from Yuba City in California, Gary Dale, Matthias, Jack Madruga, Jackie Hewitt, Ted Wellner, and William Sterling set out on a trip to watch a basketball game. Left after it finished, and then somehow drove up a mountain into the wilderness and were never seen again. The story has been described as the American version of the very mysterious Dyatlov Pass incident, which I did do a reading on that a while ago, and I linked it at the bottom of this post in case you want to compare notes or go and look at that reading. This involved the unsolved deaths of 9 ski hikers in the northern Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union, and this is referring to the Dyatlov Pass incident. So if you want to check out either one of those anymore, info is on my blog itself, like I'd said. So I wanted to turn into this strange outdoors mystery, the question at hand that they had asked me about. And what I did was I broke it down into different questions that I put in my mind to try to get some clarity as to what really happened in this unsolved mystery. So the first thing that I put out there was, why did the men get lost that night and end up on the mountain? Like, what in their self got them to even go there or head that way? And so what I did was I put myself in the car because I wanted to see things through their vantage point, to try to understand maybe the emotions, what they saw, all these different things. And when I did that, I saw there were some bright lights off in the distance. They could see them as they were driving, and at first it looked like flashes or twinkles, and then it looked like it became more and more consistent. The more they drove, the more consistent it was. They weren't sure what it was that they were seeing, but it appeared to be a fleet of UFO crafts. Again, they're questioning it. They're like, what is going on? They're watching this. They're curious, and they became confident after staring at this for a little while that it was indeed a UFO fleet. I get it was an impromptu thing. They didn't plan it. They didn't map it out, but they decided they were going to try to take a detour to where they were originally headed that night. They didn't use maps. They just basically used these twinkle and these flashes of light as a guide to direct them where they were going to go. And I heard this phrase that they were like moths being drawn to a flame, meaning they were drawn to these twinkles and flashing and all of this stuff going on in the sky. So then I wanted to know what happened around the car. They found a car just abandoned on the side of the road, doors open, just completely bizarre. Nobody was around it. And I got that when they got close to the lights, something or someone jumped out in front of the car. I mean, if you've ever seen like a deer jump out in front of you or that type of thing, it was that image. Again, it did not look like an animal. They weren't sure what it was. I hear them scream, and they were certain it was an ET because the shape of the person, what they looked like, and they pulled over because they wanted to investigate, and they were outside and they were looking around and they were searching for footprints or some clue of what in the world is going on. They wanted confirmation, or they just wanted to see things clear. So they're around the car, they're looking at all this stuff, and I wanted to then know, how did they end up around a trailer 19 miles from the car? Because as the story goes, they drove up this path that was nowhere of anything that they had planned on doing. There was a car abandoned, the people were gone, and there was evidence that they had made it 19 miles away from the car at some shack or a trailer or that type of thing. So I wanted to know, how did they get there? What inspired them, or what made them want to walk? And I got that when they got out of the car, they did see strange footprints and they started to follow them. So as they walked, they weren't really paying attention to their surroundings. It was more that they were in tune to these tracks and just really honed in on them. They were intrigued and they just started walking. They had no intention of going as far as they did. And at one point they wanted to go back, but they got twisted around in this like snowy woods, all this kind of stuff. And not only was the path that they were following being covered up, the tracks that they were following, their own tracks were being covered up. It was kind of like a Hansel and Gretel situation where, you know, you're leaving these breadcrumbs of a path that basically became non-existent because as the snow came down, they got covered up. So they're in the woods and they're lost, they're cold. And my God, after 7 hours of wandering, they eventually found their way to this trailer, and that's where they stayed in hopes of shelter, protection, that kind of thing. And then I got, next question I wanted to know is, why did Ted apparently starve to death? So in this trailer, there were maybe like this backup food source and that kind of stuff. And one of the people were actually found in the trailer, and they were deceased at the time. And I got that with the cold and exhaustion and the lack of meds, and there were some mental imbalances with this group of people, this Ted person convinced himself that the food was poison or something was in it. And I saw this image of Jack Nicholson in The Shining, just a little crazed, a little out of his mind, partly because of, you know, you have hypothermia, you have dehydration, you have starvation, you have all these different things setting in. So his mind was just really off, and I understood him to feel that way, and he lacked control of his thoughts and emotions, and eventually he ended up perishing because of hypothermia. Very interesting case. I would highly encourage you to read the actual story. I think if you read the whole story, some of what I got would even be more clear or make more sense. I didn't want to go into all of that all at once. So yeah, thanks for the reading suggestion. This was really interesting. It was a very different situation and one that I had not heard of before. So anyway, I will say, please feel free to like me, share me, leave comments. Curious your take on all this after you take all this in and listen to my perspective of what I intuitively got. A shout out, thank you patrons for all your support. And again, I'm Lynn with Psychic Focus at psychicfocus.blogspot.com. Thanks, bye.